What's up, guys? So I'm in the mood to talk about some death metal stuff. So what I'm doing today is 10 underground 90s death metal recommendations. So I'm not claiming these are the most cavalt or obscure, whatever, just 10 records that I happen to enjoy. But first, if you can hear the noise behind me. This is a newer one, so this is from 2021. These guys are from Spain. This is Ashuary with, let me pull this out. I got a new phone last week and it records in 4K apparently, so hopefully the quality of my videos will look better from here on out, so let me know if it does, so you can see this sexiness in all its glory. So there's the album cover for this, so this is their second full length, I believe, and these guys are from Spain. I've never seen anybody else mention them online, not sure why, but I kind of get that because there's so many bands nowadays, but yeah, it's good shit. If I had to compare them to something, like a more well-known band, definitely I would say Ataraxy, maybe because they're both from Spain, but yeah, good shit. So, Ashuary, Addicted to Human Flesh. Alrighty, so most of this is going to be CDs. I only have one LP to show. It's actually a demo. This is probably the most well-known record, but I still think this is kind of underappreciated as far as when people say death metal demos, it's like Thy Kingdom Come or the Amon stuff. I think this should be as popular as either of those two, but it came a little bit later, so I kind of get that. This is Centurion of Purest Fire, so when people say the demos are the best stuff, I usually roll my eyes. This is one of the few cases where I actually believe the demo is the best material. Don't get me wrong, all three full lengths completely rip too, those are all great, but this is definitely the best though. So they're from the Netherlands, but they do not sound Dutch at all. They definitely sound super Floridian. So musically, I would say this is like Altars of Madness, the first Deicide, and the first Chrysian. So definitely not very Netherlands sounding. So definitely not a completely different sound from your typical Asphyx or Gorefest or Castricon. But yep, awesome release. So yep, I think this came out in 96, 97. I know it was mid to late 90s. This is a Hell's Headbangers reissue. So hails to them for doing this. The only problem with this band is the price of their actual full lengths online, which is ridiculous. I don't think any of those actually even have a legit vinyl pressing. I believe the debut, I think, has a picture disc pressing, and the other two I don't even think have a regular LP pressing. So that blows, but oh well. So anyway, there's that. I love their logo too. Then the back, again, like I said, put out through HH. Hey, you can actually read this, so that's nice. So definitely it looks better than usual. Then the pictures, very evil looking, so they definitely look like they're from Florida. So if you know the band Severe Torture, two of the guys in Centurion, when Centurion went on hiatus, joined Severe Torture. I believe it's the singer and one of the guitarists. Don't quote me on that, but anyway. Cool split color. So man, if you like your death metal super evil and crazy, this is definitely one of the best demos from the late to mid 90s. Like I said, all three full lengths rule, but for me, the demo is still the peak. So there you go. Centurion of Purest Fire. Let's put that right here. Actually, let's get up here. I was going to play that later. Alrighty, going to Mexico, which half this stuff is Mexico, because as metal fans we tend to go on nerdy deep dives. Like a month or two ago, I went on a 90s Mexican death metal deep dive, so half the stuff is from Mexico. So let me pull this out of the J code or whatever. So 1990 or 91, I believe. This is Blackthorn with The Rotten Ways of Human Misery. So this is their only full length, I believe. I don't remember what label it was on, but I know a lot of these bands were on smaller labels, so that's maybe why they didn't get the love. Which the Chasm is definitely, I would say, the most popular band from Mexico that play death metal, but they're not my favorite though. But yeah, I didn't mention them obviously because they're definitely super well known. But yeah, I would say a lot of those bands is almost like a more death metal version of like Sepultura or Holocausto, so definitely I would say super thrashy, awesome in your face riffs. I mean, it is super early 90s sounding, which honestly the death metal, you can still hear the thrash, is probably my favorite, or at least favorite for like South America or USA. But anyway, very weird album cover. It's like a pile of like bodies and shit. But there's the back. This is a Raw Scout Records reissue from 2023. Yep. Like I said, they're only full length, which is a shame because they had a bunch of potential. If they did more, that would have been cool to hear. But I'd rather have, I guess, one great record than a bunch of crap afterwards. But yep. There you go. So Blackthorn, The Rotten Ways of Human Misery. Awesome shit. Alrighty, so next up, 1996. I guess you could say this is with Centurion, probably the other like biggest one, but still not really. So this is Avulsed with Eminence and some shit I can't read because the font sucks, but well, it's the debut record, whatever. I would show Stabwood Intercourse, that's my favorite, but the cover would probably get this video taken down, so I'm not gonna attempt to do that. So honestly, I'm not a huge Avulsed fan. Their first couple records are good, but they kind of got pretty samey later on. I would say it's like Deranged from Sweden, Vomitory or Cannibal Corpse, kind of like those three mixed together, but they definitely have their own sound, being from Spain, not from any like super well-known country. But I know the frontman is the runner of Extreme Music, and he did Drown Productions back in the day, so that's pretty cool if you know your death metal history. I just wish Extreme Music had a better USA distribution, though I think Hell's Headbangers has some, but yep. So if you like super heavy, just kind of like chunky, like gurgly death metal, good shit. Avulsed with some stuff I can't pronounce, but anyway, it leaves the title, so good luck. So I've mentioned this band before, and I think they are extremely underrated, especially I think they are by far the most underrated Swedish death metal band, and honestly, if I had to have a big four of Swedish death metal, they would be included, which might be kind of weird, but I stand by this. I don't think they have a bad record in the bunch. This isn't my favorite, but my favorite I've mentioned a few times, so I decided to mention the debut, even though the debut is probably the most well-known anyway. So this is Sentinex with Subconscious Lobotomy. So my favorite is Default here. Let me grab it. Where are you, Sentinex? So I think their best record is this one, Malleus Maleficarum. This is their second album from 1996, I believe. But I've mentioned this a few times, so I want to mention the debut to be different. Yeah, not sure why they don't get the love of like a Dismember or an Entombed or a Grave and Unleashed, but maybe because they weren't on a smaller label, they weren't on like Nuclear Blast or Century Media. This was on Underground Recording, so I'm not sure what the deal is, but oh well. And this came out in 1992, if I didn't mention that already, so they were definitely one of the OGs, so only a year after like an Everflowing Stream and or No Life Dwells, so they were there from the beginning, but they don't get the love they deserve, I think. But anyway, maybe because this cover art is god-awful. I mean, if you were to blind by that, you'd be like, this has to be horrible, so that doesn't do any favors. I mean, it looks like a sex doll getting a haircut in some weird dungeon. Yeah, that's pretty terrible, but the music rules, so who cares? But yeah, man, definitely the most underrated Swedish death metal band from the OG scene. Awesome band. They don't have a bad record, but oh well. This is not my favorite, but it's close. So there you go. Sentinex, Subconscious Lobotomy. You're going to Mexico again. This is from 1990. In their second record, they have like 30 or something insane. So this is Transmetal with Sepelado in El Mar. I'm sure I butchered that, so I apologize. But anyway, so Transmetal, definitely one of the more like OGs of the Mexican scene. I think they were out before Chasm, because their first record was like 88, and I think the first Chasm was like 96 or something. And even the first Cenotaph too, because I believe Gloomy Reflections of a Hidden Sorrow was like 92 and 93, so they were definitely one of the OGs from that scene. Not my favorite by them, that would probably be one of the ones from like the early 2000s. Here, hang on. Where are you? Yeah. This one I think is my favorite. This is Tristinaza de Lucifer. I'm not sure what that means because I didn't take Spanish in high school, but oh well. So if you want to check them out, this is my recommendation. But I've heard, I think, like 10 so far, and all the ones I've heard were awesome. But yeah, like I said, with a lot of the Mexican bands, definitely like a more like thrashier edge. So like your Sepultura, Morbid Visions, and Holocausto and Volcano take into the next extremity. But there's one band I haven't that they would do something different. But when it comes to the Mexican sound, it's definitely, I would say, like the bread and butter is definitely taking like the more brutal Brazilian thrash scene to the next level, which kind of makes sense because they're both like from South America, kind of. But oh well. So there you go. Transmetal with Cepelino L de Mar. Awesome record, but not my favorite. But still good though. Alright, so I was playing these guys a video or two ago, but I wasn't playing my favorites, so this is definitely my favorite record by them. I've mentioned them like a few times in the heavy metal Discord or whatever. So this, let me pull this out. So this is Purgatory with Bestial. So this is definitely a very like mid to late 90s sounding album. I mean that in a good way. Don't get me wrong, it's not like groovy, it's not like later Morbid Angel or whatever where they went like kind of more like mid-pace, but I would say compared to a more well-known band, it's like early Vader, early Vomitory with a little bit of the evilness from like early Vital Remains or something. So like Forever Underground, I guess, is a good comparison. It doesn't have any of the keyboards that had though. It's like more of like the like, I should say the overall vibe is kind of more like Vital than the actual sound, if that makes any sense. But yep. These guys are from Germany, if I did not mention that. Yeah, they're only a German band. They have, I think, like 10 albums. I have the first 5 so far. I've heard the entire discography. They don't have a bad one, but this one's definitely my favorite. So yep. Again, if you like stuff like Vomitory or Vader and you want that to be like more evil sounding, definitely check out Purgatory. So my favorite record by them, this is, if I didn't mention, it's called Bestial. This is from 1997. Great record, like I said, you can't go wrong with any of them. They were all awesome. Alrighty, so I didn't plan this, but these last 4 are all from Mexico, so oh well. Actually, let's do this one next. So, like I said, there was a lot of the bands breaking the mold of the typical sound. This, I would say, if you're going to listen to one thing I talk about today, this is the recommendation of the video. This is Agony Lords with The Sign of the Coast. So these guys, I would say, basically, this is like early Edge of Sanity style stuff. So if you like, basically like Crimson era, but less proggy, I guess. So like a more straightforward version of Crimson. This is definitely an awesome record to check out. So, again, another band I've never seen anybody mention, but I believe they only had 3 albums, I think. This is the debut. I think it was like between 93 and 97 when this came out, so mid to late 90s, or early to mid 90s what I meant, but yep. Awesome band. Again, not sure why I've never seen anybody mention them. Maybe because they were on a smaller label. They were on DenastationDistro.net, so not exactly a well-known label like Century Media or Nuclear Blast, but yeah, man. They're labeled Melodic Death. Maybe, but like I said, it's definitely more, it's closer to like Edge of Sanity than say like an In Flames, but oh well. But like I said, considering they were from, they had their own sound though, but yep. Check it out if you want a, I guess you could say, Mexican Edge of Sanity. Awesome record. So that is Agony Lords, The Son of the Coast. Alrighty, so next up, I would say let's change directions. This is definitely the complete opposite of Agony Lords. Oh, yeah, Agony Lords. So this is Toxodeath with mysteries about life and death. So of all these records, this is definitely, I would say, the most like immature-ish, I guess. So it's pretty like, I don't want to call it sloppy. It's more like you definitely like typical like meat and potatoes death metal. It doesn't have any of the like thrashiness of the other bands I mentioned from Mexico. It's definitely, I would say, more like kind of caveman-ish, which though that can be charming because it's definitely, I would say, I mean, hey, let me show you this. You can see how young these guys are. I mean, they look like they're, what, like 15? So definitely a group of youngsters trying to pound out super heavy shit, but yep. It's not going to exactly win any awards for, like, the best musicianship or anything, but if you just want, like, awesome, catchy songs, the production's not the best. It doesn't sound very great. It's not, like, super professional or anything, but honestly, with this style of death metal, who really cares? But and this version also has a demo from 1988 is when the demos came out, so Phantasm's demo, so you got that on the back. So I think there's also an LP of this, but I remember seeing that on Discogs, but maybe I made it up. This is also the Vic Records reissue, if I didn't mention that. But yeah, man, if you just want super awesome, like kind of meat and potatoes-ish death metal, this is a good record. So definitely not very like technical or anything, but sometimes you just want a good like punching like rocks with your fist death metal record. So that's a awesome choice for that style. So there you go, Toxodeath, mysteries about life and death. Alright, so another band like Transmetal that has a bajillion albums. So this is Leprosy with Wicked Reich. I know that cover art is god awful, which I'm not sure whose 5-year-old brother decided to draw this artwork. I mean, was their budget like $10? I mean, that is pretty horrible, but the music is awesome, so definitely I would say compared to the bands in the scene, I would say it's definitely like probably even the thrashiest. I would say it's more like death thrash and straight up death metal, which I know I mentioned a lot of bands in Mexico were more like a more extreme thrash record, but I would say it's definitely, I would say like, well, I would say a band like Loud Blast is like probably 75% death metal, 25% thrash. This is almost like 60-40, I guess, so a little bit more thrashy, but anyway. I know there's another version of this that has a picture of them playing live, or just like one of the members, but this was the cheaper version to get, so yeah. I had to buy this from Brazil, so I'm glad I didn't get screwed over, so not exactly easy to find in the States, but if you wanted, you could find it. It wasn't expensive, it just took a while to show up though. So yep, there you go. Leprosy, Wicked Reich. Terrible artwork aside, but this album rules. Alrighty, last one. So the most, I guess you could say, evil of the Mexican records I chose. So this is Tenebrarum with Alta Magia. Yeah, Alta Magia. So this came out in 1994. It also has their demo from 1992 on it. So this is from American Line Prods. I'm not sure what that is, but okay. So these guys, I would say, the most like black metal influence, because I say that because there's some like keyboards in the background. And it's like not really musically black metal, but it's more like in the like atmospheric part. It's kind of like black metal. I would say they don't sound anything alike, but I would say almost like God the Throne, kind of, which you could. I say it because they're like a death metal band with like black metal atmosphere and like production, kind of. So, yep. I mean, you can even tell that definitely, honestly, looks more black metal than it does death metal. I mean, even the logo too and the album font. Like I said, there's the back. See, man, if you like a kind of like evil, spooky sounding death black record, this is a good one to check out. So that is Tenebrarum with Alta Magia. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. I know this was a short one, but oh well. So hopefully you found some cool stuff to check out. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you whenever I get around to making another video. I've just been busy lately, so don't expect me to do a video every week again, but I'll try to get back on it when I have the time, so we'll see. Thank you. Hails.